Welcome back to my channel for a short, interesting Fuji medium format episode. And I was recently shooting my Fuji GFX100II, this beauty here, with the monster lens here. And that's the Fujinon GF 500mm f5.6. It's a really good lens, has a huge filter thread of 95mm. Is not as heavy as you would think when you see the size and the volume, but is substantial, of course, on my Fuji GFX100II. And there is an ongoing discussion about whether you should switch in-body image stabilization off when you shoot a camera on a tripod. And astonishingly enough, I found something I did not expect in the manual of this lens. And I also gained my own experience by shooting the GFX100II with that lens and had in-body image stabilization on and also off. And I want to show you the difference in this video. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. I'm super grateful for it. For you, it's for free. For me, it helps to increase the reach of my channel. Many thanks. All right, so this is not a review of this lens. I think is a niche lens, is not a lens a lot of people on YouTube will own and will shoot. And I'm happy to provide a fully fledged review of this 500mm tele lens if people show interest, but I don't want to work on a video, invest a lot of effort, and then no one is really interested and no one cares. So if you want to see a fully fledged review about this 500mm Fujinon lens, drop me a comment, let me know. If I see a lot of support in my channel community, I'm happy to do it, because I was shooting this lens last year, not only once, but several times. And I was using it actually for landscape with a perception of compression. And on this effect, I posted a separate video with a different camera, different setup, and so on. And I also used this 500mm lens on the GFX100II for landscape photography for certain reasons. So if you want to see a video about that, let me know, drop me your comment. Only if I see enough support, I will put work and effort in a video like that. Now let's go right into the topic. So in-body image stabilization basically means that the sensor in the camera body is freely floating in a magnetic field, and in this way can compensate for tiny little shakes and vibrations. And that enables you to shoot longer handheld exposures than you would be able to do normally. And most cameras, actually all cameras I know, have a dedicated entry for that in the menu. And on the Fuji GFX, it's here. You see image stabilization mode, and there is continuous. That means it's always activated. Shooting only, when you shoot, of course, half pressing the shutter button, or off. And there is an ongoing debate where I think it's now common sense and common belief in the community of pro photographers that if you shoot a camera that has in-body image stabilization on a tripod for longer exposures, for instance, you should deactivate in-body image stabilization. So we choose here off. And you see it's then taken over. It says image stabilization mode is off. And that's the common belief, I think, the common sense in the community. Now, there is something interesting going on. If you expect for every lens in the Fujinon GF universe that if you go here into image stabilization mode, that you can actually switch it off, you're mistaken. That's not the case. And I'm going to show it to you right now, because I will quickly mount the 500mm lens, get my all-times favorite here in the GF system, the 55mm lens off. Widest open here, by the way, is an f1.7. So I swap lenses and will show you how this menu changes if this lens here is mounted. All right, so I swapped lenses. My 55mm lens is now off camera, and the Fujinon GF 500mm f5.6 is mounted to the GFX100II. Look at this massive lens. But as I said before, like always in the Fuji GF world, it's not as heavy as you would expect if you see this in terms of volume and size and dimensions. And let me now show you what I said. You remember before in the menu for image stabilization, we saw continuous, shooting only, and off. Watch what happens with this lens here. Let me try to hold this in the proper way so you can see it. Let's go into the menu. We have here the same menu entry, image stabilization mode. And if I go into here, the off option is gone. You have continuous and shooting only. Now, why is this? Does it mean I can no longer deactivate in-body image stabilization? Well, and here's the confusing part of it. If we look at the lens, it has different mechanical elements. And here is a switch which steers the image stabilization. But, and that's important, it's not saying anything about IBIS, so in-body image stabilization. It talks about optical image stabilization, or acronymed OIS. And it's currently on, and we see in the menu also here that it is activated. So it seems that what Fuji here calls OIS is actually steering both simultaneously. The optical image stabilization of the lens as well as the in-body image stabilization of the camera. Because, watch this, I'm here on continuous. I could also go to shooting only. If I go back, you see it's activated. If I turn the switch here and deactivate optical image stabilization, I do it, listen to the sound. Boom. Then here, image stabilization mode is grayed out. I hope you can see it. And it says off. So the OIS switch on the lens also turns off the in-body image stabilization. And based on our common belief, best practice, and what I discussed before, this is the setting we should use if we shoot that camera on a tripod, which was my shooting situation back then. You see here, image stabilization mode is grayed out and is off. And that's what I believed is what I should do when I shoot longer exposures with that camera lens combination on a tripod. But watch now what Fuji is publishing in the manual for this lens. And now it becomes really interesting. So I'm here now on the Fuji website, the official website. You see it here. Look here, dl-fujifilm-x.com, support manual lenses, and then my lens comes, which I just introduced to you. And we have the GF 500mm, f5.6, and so on, the owner's manual. And now let's go to English and let's see what they say here. Optical image stabilization, OIS. To use optical image stabilization, slide the OIS switch to on. Because image stabilization is also effective in reducing blur caused by motion of the mechanical shutter, we recommend that you enable optical image stabilization even when using a tripod. All right, that's interesting. So we just saw that the OIS switch, which is described here, is steering both simultaneously. The optical image stabilization, which happens always in the lens, and the in-body image stabilization in the camera body. There is no way to separate these two image stabilization methods. And Fuji is giving us here the advice, enable optical image stabilization even when using on a tripod. That is contrary to what we all believe in the community is true if this switch is also coupled and bound to the in-body image stabilization, which it is, and I just demonstrated it to you live in my video. And guess what? I tried it out, and Fuji could not get it more wrong than what they say here. And I want to go now right into sample images and show you what happens with the same scene, the same camera lens combination, the same shooting parameters. One situation you have OIS on, and one situation is where it is off. And here's the first image, and that's a night scene here in Canton Schwyz in Switzerland. I was shooting on a tripod. You see here 2.3 second exposure at f11, ISO is 80 and 500mm, because that's the only focal length this lens has to offer. And I was looking into that image, and luckily I found out already on the shooting location. And when I cropped in on the LCD display of my GFX100 Mark II, I saw that if I crop in, everything is blurry. Look here, the clock on the church tower, look at the castle, look at the other side here. Everything is blurry, kind of messed up. So I took a second shot, very similar. It's 2.6 second exposure instead of 2.3 second exposure, still at f11, ISO 80. I believe that's the base or native ISO of the GFX100 Mark II. And again, all blurriness if I look into the microstructure of this image. Really not usable. And guess what? On both images, this one and this one, optical image stabilization with that switch on the lens was activated. And then I deactivated via that switch optical image stabilization on and off on the lens body, the OIS. And by deactivating it, I show you very quickly again after we looked into these images, it also deactivates automatically the in-body image stabilization. And look at that image now. Let me crop in to 100%. All of a sudden, the image is crisp, clean and clear. No blurriness at all. It looks good. You can now read here, that's the Sedam Center. Here is a big shopping mall, H&M Corp, Migros. Here, everything is clean and looks good. And that is the effect I achieved by deactivating optical image stabilization on the lens, which simultaneously switches off the in-body image stabilization in the camera body. All of a sudden, I get a good shot. And if we now look into what Fuji is advising here, leave optical image stabilization on, even on tripod. Wow, what a mistake for an established brand like Fuji, right? Because then you will, because I repeated that experiment twice, you will get this blurriness at the micro level, the microstructure of the image. And only if you deactivate it on the tripod, you get a clean, clear and crisp image. So the first two images you saw with that blurriness at the micro level were shot with OIS on. And if OIS is on, let's go here into the menu, then image stabilization is also automatically activated in the camera body, which we call IBIS, In-Body-Image-Stabilisation. And I can choose between continuous and shooting only, but I cannot switch it off and deactivate it. And if I deactivate this here on the lens, which was my third frame in Lightroom Classic a moment ago, in-body image stabilization or image stabilization mode is here declared as off and is grayed out. So what do you say to that? I think it's worthwhile to have a little discussion here. And the deeper question is, why is Fuji, an experienced company like Fuji, giving you in the manual of a high profile lens like this one here, the wrong advice, and says you can keep it on even on a tripod, but in 2 consecutive shots, it created this blurriness at the micro level. Drop me a comment what you think, and if you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching, stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.